My parents called me a dropout. Look at your sister. I secretly built an $83 million tech firm while she wore a $20,000 gown. They are begging now. For 26 years I was the family's disappointment, the dropout, the sister who worked in customer service and the one who couldn't finish anything. Meanwhile, my older sister, Sophia Bennett, rose to the position of corporate executive at a pharmaceutical firm. My name is Rachel Taylor. Sophia fulfilled all of my parents' desires. Director of Operations at MedTech Solutions with an MBA from Northwestern, making $220,000 a year. Nathaniel Grant III, whose family managed a network of private hospitals throughout Texas, is engaged to her. Mom shared pictures of their penthouse in downtown Dallas to almost everyone she encountered. Mom characterized my 800-square-foot flat in Deep Ellum as Rachel's bohemian phase. At her age, that's alarming. After 2 years I left college, unable to manage the workload. With a voice full of disappointment, Dad told people. They never asked for the more nuanced truth. Every meeting formed the family structure. At medical conferences, Sophia would talk about her most recent product launch, team management techniques, and networking. Nathaniel would discuss their relationships with state lawmakers, their yacht club, and the Grant Family Foundation. Me? Mom would quickly switch the topic when I brought up my job. That's nice. Tell everyone about your award, Sophia, please. The conversation stopper was usually the award. One up-and-coming pharmaceutical operations star from an industry journal was Sophia's. 3 copies had been framed and placed in conspicuous places: her office, her penthouse, and the living room of her parents' home. There weren't any pictures of myself anywhere in my parents' house. In the guest room, they were all in a drawer. Once, while searching for extra blankets, I had discovered them. Planning for the wedding began 18 months prior to the big day. Sophia desired excellence. A ceremony at the Rosewood Mansion worth $350,000. 300 guests, a celebrity wedding planner, and fancy clothing. The Grants were making a $200,000 contribution. To cover the remaining costs, Mom and Dad mortgaged their home. Mom added, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime event," with a gleam in her eyes. I was originally meant to be a bridesmaid. Sophia deserves the wedding of her dreams. Then, when Sophia chose to invite just her pharmaceutical colleagues to the wedding celebration for the optics, I was demoted to regular guest. Then I received the text 3 weeks prior to the wedding. My phone buzzed as I was in my apartment looking over my laptop's quarterly financials. "We need to discuss the wedding, Rachel. Nathaniel's parents have been inquiring about our family and are quite image conscious. I believe it would be better if you didn't go. You would feel more at ease anyhow." I looked at the message for a long time. "I hope you understand, Bella. These aren't your kind of people." Go over it 3 times. Allow the words to become as ingrained as stones in water. I was not invited to my own sister's wedding. I responded by typing. Understood. That was all. Only that one word. My phone rang right away. "Sophia, Rachel, please don't be dramatic about this." "I'm not being dramatic. You asked me not to come. I'm not coming. The Grants have ties to everyone in Dallas, so it's complicated. Nathaniel's mother is on the board of the Dallas Museum of Art, and his father plays golf with the lieutenant governor. They have certain expectations about my job, appearance, success, and presentation. You work in customer service, live in Deep Ellum, and drive a Honda Fit. Nathaniel's uncle runs a private equity firm, and his cousin is a state senator. Can you see how this could be awkward?" "Perfectly clear. Don't be like that. We'll have a family meal once everything has calmed down after the wedding. Only us." I hung up and sat in the quiet of my apartment, looking around at my simple furniture, my tiny kitchen, and my 1 bathroom, which Sophia had once described as aggressively small. "Sure, Bella. Enjoy your wedding." Next, I launched my laptop and retrieved the Austin Governor's Business Awards calendar. It was set for April 15th, the same evening as Sophia's wedding. I had intended to go to the wedding instead of the awards ceremony. No more. This is what my family was unaware of. What, in the 4 years after I dropped out, none of them had bothered to inquire about. I didn't quit because the task was too much for me. Because I had created something that couldn't wait, I left. I had observed something during my sophomore year at UT Austin. Every small business I spoke with, including eateries, shops, and service providers, had the same issue. Enterprise-level CRM software was out of their price range. The low-cost selections were awful. Good alternatives range from $45,000 to $190,000 per year. In the interim, I constructed something. I learned how to code on my own. For 8 months I worked nightly to create a CRM software tailored to small enterprises. Depending on the functionalities, the cloud-based user interface costs between $89 and $279 each month. A little firm had everything they needed and nothing they didn't. Client flow is what I named it. In 2020, I left to operate it full-time. My parents believed that I was wasting my life. They were unaware that I had already signed my first 50 clients and was making $7,500 a month from recurring business. Client flow has 800 customers and was making $170,000 a month by 2021. 3,200 customers and $600,000 per month by 2022. By 2023, we had 8,200 clients nationwide and were making $1.8 million a month, or $21.5 million a year. I led a team of 24 employees, including a CFO with prior Oracle experience, a head of sales with 3 successful companies under their belt, and a customer success team of 12 who handled onboarding and support tickets. In January 2024, my company's Series B funding round was valued at $83 million. But as Sophia wore her expensive outfits, I continued to show up to family meals in jeans and t-shirts, kept my Deep Ellum apartment, and kept my Honda fit. On most days I worked from home, and when my family asked what I did for a living, I replied that I worked in customer service, which was technically correct. In addition to serving customers, I was the business's owner. I needed to know if they would still love me if I didn't succeed, so I let them believe what they wanted to believe. For being Rachel alone, would they value me? The solution had always been clear. However, Sophia's text made it quite evident. The Texas Governor's Business Awards were a major event. Began 15 years ago with the goal of honoring young business people in the state who were fostering innovation and generating jobs. The under 30 division was especially esteemed. Out of hundreds of nominations, only 5 winners are chosen each year. One of my investors, a venture capitalist who had the governor's personal cell phone and served on 3 company boards, had suggested me. I had originally intended to remain silent, go to the ceremony, take the prize, and then let it fade into the background when I won. However, things had changed. Tell me where you're watching from tonight in a comment. The Four Seasons in Austin hosted the awards presentation. On several platforms, attendees of the Black Tie 500 were live-streamed. Forbes reported about it. There was a full team from the Austin Business Journal. All of Texas's top tech CEOs would be there. I paid $7,500 for a custom Alexander McQueen outfit in midnight blue, not just any dress. The same crew that worked on Austin Fashion Week's hair and makeup. Shoes that are more expensive than my rent each month. The night of the ceremony, I hardly recognized myself when I glanced in the mirror. Ethan Harris, the CEO of a semiconductor business that recently went public for $2.9 billion, was my date for the evening. We had remained friends after meeting at a founders' conference in San Francisco. "Family who dismisses you doesn't deserve you," he had remarked plainly when I had told him about my sister's predicament. He had volunteered to go with me right away. "Let's make sure your success is impossible to ignore." Governor Lisa Harper offered the opening remarks. The ceremony began at 7 p.m., precisely the same time as Sophia's wedding ceremony at the Rosewood Mansion, 200 meters north in Dallas. The Under 30 Awards were the main event of the evening, and Governor Harper returned to the podium after the winners were announced in reverse order, from 5th place to 1st place, with increasing fanfare for each. The room was packed with powerful people, including CEOs, investors, politicians, and journalists. I sat at a front table with Ethan, my CFO James, and 2 of my early investors. "The final Under 30 award winner exemplifies the kind of innovation Texas needs," she said. She has created 24 well-paying positions in Austin, a firm that services over 8,200 small businesses across America, generates over $21.5 million in revenue yearly, and is valued at $83 million in just 4 years. The enormous screens on either side of the stage displayed images of client flow, including screenshots of our platform, client endorsements, and graphs demonstrating our rapid expansion. She is a first-generation college student who dropped out to follow her dream, taught herself to code, and, at just 26 years old, she has disrupted an industry dominated by giants. The room was silent, hanging on every word. I stood, Ethan squeezed my hand supportively, walked to the stage in my $7,500 dress and $1,000 shoes, shook hands with the governor of Texas, and was given a crystal trophy by Governor Harper as the room exploded in cheers. "Please welcome to the stage Rachel Taylor, founder and CEO of Client Flow." "Rachel," the governor shouted into the microphone, Tell us what drove you to build client flow. I took the microphone, looked out at 500 of the most influential people in Texas business, and spoke clearly. It was heavy, substantial, and unquestionably more prestigious than Sophia's Industry Magazine Award. I noticed that small business owners were not receiving enough support, so I founded Client Flow. They couldn't afford the tools they needed to compete. I aimed to make technology that may revolutionize their enterprises more accessible to all. And you left college to pursue this? Yes, I did. It was the most difficult choice of my life. My relatives didn't comprehend. The audience chuckled and cheered as I said. They thought I was throwing away my future. Turns out I was building it. Then I paused. What guidance would you offer to young business owners who don't have family support? Build it anyway, I firmly stated. When you succeed, the people who genuinely love you will rejoice. And if they don't, then you've built something even more important, your independence. This time, there was more, louder applause. The governor sat for pictures with me, and expert photographers recorded the moment from every perspective. Within minutes, Forbes shared the pictures on social media, tagging me, tagging Client Flow, and tagging the governor. The caption said, Rachel Taylor, 26, receives the prestigious Governor's Under 30 CEO Award for building an $83 million company that's revolutionizing small business technology. The governor was giving me the trophy, and we were both grinning. The Client Flow logo was displayed on the screens behind us, #TexasTech, #Under30 and #WomenInBusiness. I was trending on social media while Sophia was saying her vows at the Rosewood Mansion. My phone began buzzing non-stop. I had turned it off for the ceremony, but I could feel it vibrating in my clutch. The post received 50,000 likes in the first hour, comments from journalists, business leaders and entrepreneurs, and shares from prominent tech accounts. I ignored it, concentrated on the evening, spoke with journalists who wanted interviews, networked with CEOs who wanted to discuss Client Flow's growth strategy, and pushed for more pictures of Ethan, my team, and other award winners. At 10 p.m., during the reception, I checked my phone and saw that there were 127 unread messages. You're on Forbes the Governor, said Rachel, my roommate from college. What is the real thing? My old study group followed by others I hadn't spoken to in years, who all expressed their shock and congrats before being buried in the avalanche. You built an $83 million company. At Sophia's wedding celebration, Mom sent a time-stamped message at 7:47 p.m. Rachel, I'm seeing pictures of you with the governor. Is this authentic? Give me a call, please. We need to talk about what we're seeing online, said Dad, whose timestamp was 8:15 p.m. How come you didn't inform us? Sophia wrote, my wedding guests are all on their phones looking at your Forbes feature, with a timestamp of 9:03 p.m. You intentionally did this. In any case, how could you? Ethan saw my look and I put my phone aside without answering. Family. Are you all right? Better than okay, I replied. For the first time in my life, I don't need their approval. The fallout was amazing. By midnight, 200,000 people had shared the Forbes piece, and pictures of me and the governor were all over the place. Business publications were requesting interviews on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Venture capital firms were emailing about Series C funding discussions. Client Flow's website traffic grew by 847% in a single day. Our sales team was overloaded, and the Texas business community was small but connected. The news reached Nathaniel's parents in less than 48 hours. Sophia called me on Sunday afternoon, 2 days after her wedding, while I was in my apartment, still wearing my Client Flow t-shirt and sweatpants, discussing demo request prioritization with my sales team over Zoom. I let it ring, and when she called again I declined, and she texted, we need to talk, please. You didn't invite me to your wedding because I would make you look bad, I retorted. What more can we discuss? I didn't know. You never inquired, therefore you were unaware. You made an assumption. Please, Rachel. The Forbes piece was viewed by Nathaniel's parents. They want to know why you missed the wedding. They believe we are fighting. This is hurting our reputation. After giving the message a lengthy look, I typed, not my problem. Have fun in your marriage. Mom called an hour later, but she didn't answer, so I answered just out of curiosity. What's going on, Rachel Maria Taylor? Hi, Mom. Avoid saying hello, Mom, to me. Forbes the Governor, an $83 million firm, and you kept it from us. You never inquired about my actual job duties. Customer service, you said. Customer service is what I do. 8,200 consumers are being served by me. In addition, I am the company's owner. On the other end, there was silence. What kept you from telling us? Her voice cracked a little. Did you think I was real? What if I had told you 4 years ago that I was starting a business and that I had left school to pursue entrepreneurship? Would you have stood by me? Or would you have warned me that I was wasting my life? More quiet. You must comprehend, Rachel. We were concerned. You left school. You occupied that small flat. You never appeared to be wealthy. I was putting all of my money back into the business. Startups operate in this manner. We were unaware of that. You failed to provide an explanation. I shouldn't have to explain myself to earn basic respect from my own family. I spoke in a stern but calm tone. You have been treating me like a failure for the past 4 years. At every chance you have disparaged my work, patronized my decisions, and made negative comparisons to Sophia. We never got to meet. Sophia didn't ask me to her wedding, Mom, because I would make her seem bad in front of the Grants. It's not a miscommunication. It is not a lack of communication. She didn't give me much thought. How little you all gave me any thought. She didn't mean it like that. That's exactly how she meant it. And what do you know? I would have embarrassed her, but not in the way she believed. Therefore, she was justified to refuse my invitation. If you've ever had to prove yourself to individuals who ought to have trusted you from the beginning because of what transpired next, hit the subscribe button. Mom made an effort to keep the conversation going. The parents of Nathaniel would like to meet you. They are quite impressed. They said, "Let me stop you there. I cut you off. Forbes says I'm successful, so now the Grants want to meet me. Not because I'm the sister of Sophia, not because I'm a valuable person, because they regard me financially. That's not fair. It's entirely equitable. I was not invited by Sophia for the same reason. For her social advancement, I was worthless. I do now. However, that does not imply that I am at your disposal. Rachel, please. This is tearing our family apart. No, Mother. This is exposing the true nature of our family. There is a distinction." The response from the business community was tremendous. Within a week, I received requests for interviews from the Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, Business Insider, and Forbes. I hung up, switched my phone to Do Not Disturb, and resumed my work. My CFO, James, was constantly taking calls, including invitations to speak at 3 major tech conferences, offers of Series C funding from 7 venture capital firms, acquisition inquiries from 2 public companies that I turned down, invitations to join 2 corporate boards, and a request to speak at the commencement of UT Austin's business school. We need a public relations specialist, Rachel. I can't handle this in addition to the finances. Take action. Find a decent person. Our first piece of advice from Rebecca Harris, a former tech PR professional with experience working with 3 unicorn startups and who is unrelated to Ethan, was to lean into your story. A young Latina founder who dropped out of college created an $83 million business out of nothing. That's the narrative investors and press are hungry for. I'm not going to exploit my ethnicity for marketing. I don't advocate for exploitation. I'm advocating for sincerity. Your narrative is important. The success of someone like them is needed by hundreds other Latina businesses. Avoid hiding from that. He was correct. That month I conducted 3 significant interviews in which I discussed being a first-generation student, the pressure to follow a conventional path, the possibility of quitting out and creating something from nothing. The responses were amazing. While Sophia's life was falling apart in slow motion, I received hundreds of emails from young women, first-generation students, and people whose families didn't understand their entrepreneurial aspirations, telling me that my story gave them courage. It turned out that the Grant family was fixated on connections and status. They were incensed to learn that Sophia had purposefully left out her sister, who was now a well-known businesswoman with the governor's personal support. Susan Grant, Nathaniel's mother, was especially incensed because she served on several charity boards and was very active in Dallas high society. 3 weeks after the wedding, Nathaniel called. I nearly didn't answer, but my curiosity overcame me. Sophia had cost her the connection to a successful young tech, which would have been beneficial for her nonprofit work and social status. This is Nathaniel Grant, Rachel. We haven't had a formal meeting. I am aware of who you are. I'm phoning to express my regret for the wedding-related incident. Sophia erred. Sophia made a decision. I made a conscious correction. She was under stress due to wedding preparations and the pressure from both families to make everything flawless. Nathaniel, I don't give a damn about the excuses. Your wife, your wife, threw me out of her wedding because she thought I would make her feel embarrassed. That's not stress. That's judgment. That's her true opinion of me. She was unaware of your business, and that's the exact issue. My mother wants to invite you to lunch, he said at last. She's on the board of several charities that could benefit from technology solutions, he said. She never bothered to ask. None of them did. They saw what they wanted to see, a dropout, a failure, someone beneath them. Now that I'm useful, suddenly I matter. No, I'm sorry. I replied. No. I'm not interested in partnering with people who only value me for what I can do for them. She would love to talk about possible partnerships with Client Flow. Inform your mom that although I value her interest, Client Flow has other priorities. Rachel, please be reasonable. I'm acting quite rationally. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Sophia called. I let her call go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail, voicemail. At last she texted, "Please talk to me. Nathaniel's family is upset. His mother is threatening to cut us off from the family foundation, saying, 'I'm an embarrassment who doesn't understand the importance of family connections. Please.' Now you understand what it's like to be called an embarrassment by your own family," I said, staring at the message, which was so thick with irony that you could cut it with a knife. Have fun. I disabled her number after she attempted to contact 17 more times that day. The next Sunday, Mom boldly showed up at my apartment by simply showing up at my door, given that I lived in a building with security and she didn't have the code. She must have been let in by someone. "Rachel, we need to talk face to face." She looked around at my IKEA furniture, my tiny kitchen, and my wall of vacation photos, and I thought about shutting the door, but I invited her in instead, and my apartment felt suddenly smaller with her in it. "This is where you've been living for 4 years. Her expression was complex, as if she was seeing something that didn't add together. "Yes, while you were developing a business worth $83 million. While I was putting all of my money back into expansion." "Yes." Without being asked, she took a seat on my couch. "Your dad and we feel awful. We were unaware. You didn't inquire. You said you did customer service." "I do. Simply put, it's higher than you thought." "Mom, what do you want?" I asked, leaning on my kitchen counter. "What brings you here?" "I'd like to comprehend. How come you didn't inform us?" "Without the success, I needed to know if you loved me. I would be valued simply for being your daughter, Rachel. Not the CEO, Rachel. Not the award-winning Rachel. Only Rachel. Of course we love you. Do you? Because you have been a disappointment to me for the past 4 years. You've continuously praised Sophia while ignoring all I did. You presented me as my younger daughter, who handles a variety of tasks, and her as my daughter, the pharmaceutical executive." She crumpled her face a little. "I didn't realize." "That is the issue. You didn't care enough to investigate more, therefore you were unaware of it. You got what you were looking for, a dropout who struggled in college. You never considered the possibility that I might have departed for a valid reason. What exactly was the cause?" "I created something that was impatient. Every day that I attended class was a day that my rivals won. I had customers who were prepared to pay for my goods. Investors wanted to put money into me. If I didn't take action, my window of opportunity would close. So you dropped out." "So I dropped out and you've held it against me ever since." She lowered her gaze to her hands. "Your father mortgaged the house for Sophia's wedding." "I understand. We were unable to assist you with that. We've reached our limit. If you'd like a large wedding when you get married." "I don't want a big wedding, Mom, and I would cover the cost myself if I did." I hesitated and said, "I'm not upset because I can afford it. You couldn't be bothered to comprehend what I was building, yet you valued Sophia's happiness enough to mortgage your home, which is why I'm furious. We didn't know there was anything to understand because you never asked. You never truly cared about my life. You were never interested in what I did on a daily basis. You simply assumed that I wasn't succeeding and stopped there." There was a canyon-like silence between us. "Rachel, what do you want from us? How would this be correct?" "I want you to understand that you can't undo 4 years of dismissiveness with one conversation. I want you to understand that your love felt reliant on me fulfilling your success-related expectations. Additionally, I want you to know that I no longer require your approval. Without it, I've created a life. You're our daughter." "Am I?" Because the daughter you boast about is Sophia. You're making excuses for me. That's not. She paused, changed her mind and said, that was true. I can see that now. And I'm sorry. It was her first sincere apology. Mom, I need time. In order to determine what kind of connection we can have in the future, I need time. One that is founded on my true self rather than the person you wish I had been. How long? I'm not sure. Months. Possibly longer. Sophia's marriage is already strained because of this, she said, looking stunned. Her actions have infuriated Nathaniel's relatives. She hardly speaks to us. And now you. Sophia made a decision that backfired, which has caused tension in her marriage. I'm not responsible for fixing that. She is your sister. She uninvited me from her wedding. She said I would make her feel embarrassed, Mom. That isn't love between sisters. Contempt is what that is. She apologizes. She is, I'm positive. I apologize for it blowing up in her face. I'm sorry it's making her social issues worse. However, I don't believe she genuinely regrets how she handled me. She merely apologizes for the repercussions. Mom got to her feet, moving slowly. I should go. Yeah. She turned back at the door and said, your father wants to see you. Would you be interested in joining us for dinner? In the end, not quite yet. When? When I'm prepared. Because I have faith that you want to see me rather than merely handle things. She walked out. I shut the door, leaned against it, and let out a slow breath. My phone buzzed. Ethan had texted me. I saw your mother's vehicle drive out of your building. Are you all right? He had been keeping an eye on things since he was worried about my family turning up out of the blue. I'm all right. Defending my position. All right, you're worthy of better, never accept anything less. Over the next 3 months the metamorphosis was complete, and I smiled at the phone, realizing that chosen family was frequently better than biological family. After obtaining $30 million in Series C funding, which put the company's valuation at $115 million, Client Flow hired 18 more employees, established a second office in San Francisco, and formed alliances with 3 significant small business associations. I was asked to give a speech about entrepreneurship and resilience at South by Southwest, which drew 5,000 attendees. Standing room only. Rachel Taylor, the dropout who created an empire while her family was unaware, was the subject of a feature article in the Wall Street Journal. The article covered everything, including the dynamics of the family, Sophia's wedding, and the governor's award timing. My public relations representative had cautioned against being so open, but I persisted. People need to know the real story, I had stated. Not the sanitized version. Thousands of people shared their personal tales of being undervalued, having to prove themselves to people who should have believed in them from the beginning, and having their family members reject them. The response was tremendous. Meanwhile, the Grant family had made it plain that Sophia's marriage was failing. Nathaniel was caught between his wife and his family, and the stress was ruining their relationship. Susan Grant had informed her clearly that family ties are more important than you realize. And you destroyed one of the most essential ones, so she had embarrassed them by leaving me out. In July, Sophia wrote me an 8-page handwritten letter. She wrote about her regrets, how the wedding planning had consumed her, how desperate she had been to impress the Grants, and how she had persuaded herself that keeping me out was shielding me from an awkward situation rather than shielding herself from embarrassment. It arrived at my apartment via certified mail. I was wrong, she wrote. I was mean. I ruined my relationship with the person who should have mattered the most because I was so preoccupied with pleasing unimportant people. I don't want to be forgiven. I need you to know that I realize what I did, even though I don't deserve it. I apologize. I see what I wrecked. After reading the letter 3 times and sitting with it for a week, I considered what kind of future relationship, if any, I wanted with her. I eventually rewrote a page. Thank you for your apology. I think you're sorry, but saying sorry doesn't repair the harm or restore confidence. I need some time to see if we can build a relationship based on respect for one another rather than just duty and guilt. We might be able to go there someday. Not today. It was months before I heard from her again. 6 months after the award ceremony in September, I purchased a stunning modern home in Travis Heights that cost $1.3 million and had 3 bedrooms, a home office, and a studio for my photography hobby, which I had kept up throughout my life. The house had floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of downtown Austin, and 2,800 square feet of light and tranquility. My parents learned about it via Facebook, where I had shared a picture with the comment, "New chapter," showing my living room view. I had paid cash. We hadn't spoken since the aftermath of the award ceremony when Dad called. "Can we chat, Rachel?" "We're talking. I mean really talk in person." "Why?" "Because I should apologize to you. An actual one. Additionally, I am unable to do anything over the phone." There was something unusual about his voice. It was smaller, perhaps more truthful. "A public setting. 1 hour." "Thank you." Dad, dressed in jeans and a polo instead of his typical work casual, arrived at the cafe in South Congress where we met, looked older than I remembered, ordered coffee, waited until we were seated, and then said something I had never heard him say before. "I failed you." I didn't say anything, let him go on, and projected my own anxieties onto you. "I created my business the conventional way, college, an MBA, a corporate position, and then entrepreneurship. And when you left, I perceived it as irresponsibility, failure, and a waste of opportunities that I had worked so hard to provide." I didn't discard anything. His hands grabbed his coffee cup and he said, "I know that now, but I didn't know it then. And instead of trusting you, I judged you." "I did, and so did your mother. We treated you as though you were failing, and Sophia as though she was excelling. You were creating something remarkable the entire time. You never noticed that I was. We didn't look. That is even worse." "I'm not asking for immediate forgiveness," he said, looking directly into my eyes. "I'm not asking you to put 4 years of disappointment and contempt behind you. All I'm requesting is the opportunity to create something fresh. A connection built on your true self rather than my idealized version of you." I told Mom exactly that, and she told me that you needed time and space. I'm here to tell you to take as much time as you need, but don't shut the door entirely. Let me show you that I'm capable of more. I examined him for indications of deceit or self-interest, but all I saw was sincere remorse. "All right," I said at last. "Just like this, we have 1 coffee a month in a public setting for an hour. We get to know each other really well. No preconceptions, no judgments. I'll accept it." Since then, we've been getting together once a month, and while it's not what either of us had in mind, we're being honest as we slowly and painstakingly construct what may ultimately resemble a good father-daughter relationship. Tell me your tale in the comments if you've ever had to leave in order to rescue yourself. Does any of this sound familiar to you? If so, what would you have done? 8 months after their $350,000 wedding, which lasted less than a year, Sophia and Nathaniel split up in December. The relationship was unsustainable due to the pressure from the Grant family and Nathaniel's anger over Sophia's calculated mistake. I'm not ready for more than that, but maybe someday. Sophia moved back in with our parents and is currently in therapy, working through her role in the family dynamics and her own choices. We've texted each other a few times, but it's been quick and friendly. Mom and I periodically get coffee together. Our connection is cautious, limited, but becoming better. She's trying to understand my work, ask sincere questions, and listen rather than pass judgment. Last quarter, Client Flow's yearly sales reached $40 million, and this year, we're on target to reach $48 million. The business is flourishing, expanding, and outperforming my initial expectations. But the true success lies not in the money, the valuation, or the accolades, but rather in realizing my value regardless of their approval, creating a life that is truly mine, and surrounding myself with people who have always recognized my worth. James, Ethan, my crew, and my true pals. The dean introduced me as one of our most successful entrepreneurs who had the guts to leave before we completed training her. The room laughed, and I grinned. Last month, I received an invitation to speak at UT Austin's business school, which I left 6 years ago. 500 students showed up. A young woman raised her hand during the Q&A. "How did you respond to your family's lack of support?" Sophia's text, Mom's contempt, Dad's dismay, and 4 years of being treated like a failure while establishing an empire were all things that crossed my mind. "The people who genuinely love you will celebrate your success when they see it," I replied simply. "If they don't, you've built something even more important than a company. You've built your independence." Applause erupted throughout the room. I spent 2 hours discussing what I had learned with dozens of kids who wanted to talk after the speech, share their personal tales of unsupportive families, and ask for guidance on taking risks that their parents didn't understand. The fact is that they don't teach you about success. It's not about proving yourself to those who doubted you. Rather, it's about creating something so genuine and true to yourself that their doubts are rendered meaningless. Sophia was somewhat correct, just not in the way she had anticipated, that I would make her seem foolish during her wedding. I was being recognized by the governor while she was performing for the grants, and I was creating something that would transcend all of their opinions while she was attempting to impress insignificant people. The best kind of retaliation isn't proving them incorrect, but rather creating a life so satisfying that you don't need their approval. I am now 28 years old. I possess a gorgeous home, I have real connections, and I'm establishing ties with my parents based on honesty rather than performance. Client flow is valued at $115 million and growing. Sophia, on the other hand, is trying to figure out who she is without the Grant family's approval. She resigned after the split without her executive title. Perhaps she will discover who she is without the validation she had formed her identity around. In any case, I'm fine since I've learnt the most crucial lesson of all. Perhaps we'll reunite in the future. Your value comes from creating something genuine, something that is uniquely you, and something that represents who you truly are. It does not come from obtaining admirable titles, social acceptance, or familial approval. And nobody can take that away from you. Not even your family or in-laws. I have the governor's trophy on my desk, not because it demonstrates anything to anybody else, but because it serves as a reminder that I created this on my own terms, without anyone else's consent, and it was worth every moment of being undervalued.